All right, guys, good afternoon. Welcome to the Amazing Showdown Class 6. We have a lot of awesome content for you today. I'm sure you can hear me loud and clear. We've already done an audio check, so I'm going to dive straight into content so we don't delay. Okay, so this is going to be our second series in the Law and Order Act, where we are discussing campaign structure and how to put together campaigns to work with the Amazon algorithm and rank better and cost less money. So, the topic of today's class is campaign structure. This is probably one of the more important lessons because this is how you're going to communicate with the algorithm. Again, you're going to need all the data from your search term report to make your decisions. But once you have those search term reports in your hands, the key is to take action from those reports and have a solid campaign structure that is continually improving over time and winning points with the algorithm. So if we're looking at this, today's topic is the ordinance, right? Because this is about law and order. This is about kind of putting out a clear signal to the algorithm so that every time you do something, you're sending clear signals and competitive signals that will give you an advantage over other people in your category, other products in your category that aren't sending these clear signals will definitely have lower campaign performance, worse sales history, and as a result, you're going to have a serious competitive advantage by getting ahead of the competition with clear campaign structure. This is Bat Masterson. He's always our guy when it comes to law and order. He was the head marshal in Dodge back in the day, and he was actually the guy that Wyatt Earp worked under. And I think Wyatt Earp is probably the more famous of the two, but Bat Masterson was the one who actually enforced law and order in the wicked city of Dodge. So let's talk about how the one thing I think that is really important. Well, there's multiple things in this class that are important, but the key takeaway here is that campaign optimization and campaign structure. See, a lot of people think that they're going to set up their campaigns one time and they're going to set and forget it. The key thing with advertising to keep in mind is it's an iterative process, right? You're not going to ever do anything once and then set and forget. So there is nothing that you will build in your campaigns today that is going to stay the same way, because it's really about taking things from the feedback loop and making continual improvements consistently over time to improve performance. So the thing that most people will do and they make the biggest mistake is they load a bunch of keywords into their campaigns and they hit the enable button and they spend money and they just let it run. And that's just not how advertising is managed or done. Advertising is much more like managing your finances. It's something that you need to do every 30 days and you need to base it on reality, right? Reality is a bit of an acquired taste, and it's easy to be an idealist, when it comes to advertising or any kind of business promotion. It's easy just to kind of idealize it and think big picture and put it into motion. And then of course you just think that everything is going as it should, but the reality is it's not. Like, it is really a continual process of looking at the data, analyzing the data, and making changes to your campaigns continually, both in structure, targeting, and messaging, to make sure that you're hitting your target audience with the right message at the right time when they're searching in specific areas and categories. So it is definitely a process that you learn over time. Another thing that you'll want to keep in mind with that right there is the fact, because it's something you do over time and it's designed to have a lot of things not work and a few things work. And then your job is to figure out what's working and do more of that, and take the things that aren't working and stop doing that. So because that is the way advertising is ran, you really want to be, also very patient with yourself and very willing to make these tests. As long as you're using everything that you learned in Act 1 in terms of effective keyword research, targeting based on what your competitors are doing that's already selling and already ranking, doing the steps that give you a clear advantage when you hop onto the playing field. Once you've done good due diligence in your campaign research, it's very important that you just go and set campaigns live using that due diligence to be very structured and make small bets. Realize that everything you do out the gate is just simply a small bet to get more information back. There is no way to make winning bets without the data. So it's important that you're making those small bets, that you're patient with yourself in analyzing that data, and not letting anything, especially perfection or a deep understanding. Like, if you're trying to get a full understanding of this before you do it, again, it's that bridging that knowing doing gap. You could get a little bit stuck in that. Because the reality is that you're going to learn by doing, and not because the process is changing as much as your products, your market, your competitors, everything there is absolutely fluid and in motion. So even if you have a firm grasp of the concepts, each of these concepts is going to act differently in relation to your products and your campaigns and your market and your competitors. So it's more important that you get started on a very small scale, start to test, start to analyze, so that you can make those revisions that are actually going to be the winning move, right? All wins are going to be done in the revision phase, right? Everything else is putting down the test, knowing what you're looking at to analyze it. And then boom, when you make those revisions and you take that action, that's when you start to put everything in motion to start to scale and see a lot of sales velocity. So the first step that we're going to do is we're going to promote our products. That's the main thing when it comes to campaign structure, is you really want to be thinking about what the campaign initiative is. Again, campaigns and ad groups are not keyword buckets. And if they were, they would be called keyword groups and keyword campaigns, but they're not. Campaigns are designed to bring a bunch of elements together, the true definition of a campaign. If you look at it in like military history or any kind of execution or any kind of way that people are doing it or implementing it, campaigns are designed to bring a bunch of elements together to accomplish one single objective. That is the definition of campaign. So it's important that you don't start to kind of bucket everything into campaigns as an organization or filing structure without thinking about what the single thing you're trying to accomplish is with that campaign. And the majority of the time that the campaign needs to just acquire new customers and increase your brand visibility, increase your sales conversions on Amazon. That's the point. But the point is to do it product by product, right? Bird by bird, stitch by stitch. So when you're building up a campaign, it's important. We've talked about this multiple times previous, but I think it's important that we review the good campaign structure starts with the promotion of a single product in a single campaign. So the ad groups and keywords within that campaign can work together to accomplish a single objective, which is to acquire new customers for a specific product. So when we went through this in one of the earlier classes on campaign strategy, if you remember, we talked about the 3 ways you would structure a campaign. And this is a key takeaway for just even before you can even do the groundwork for what you're going to do with your campaigns, before you even start to kind of wrap your mind around Amazon's platform and how ad groups and campaigns and keywords work. It's important that you understand how products work and how your product will be shopped and sold so that you can structure the campaigns correctly from the ground up, because it will start with your product targeting. So we talk about coffee as one example of a certain kind of targeting, right? We see here that we have a whole bean coffee product and we have a ground coffee product. So these will go in separate campaigns because they're distinctly different keywords, right? That's how you make the decision. You know that your whole bean coffee and your ground coffee are completely different just because the way people search for them, which we'll review in a minute. So because of the way people search for these products, you need to have a separate campaign for both ground and whole bean because they don't overlap. Some of the coffee keywords would overlap, but as we know, from our, from Act 1, we know that the word coffee would be far too broad for an advertising campaign. That's a great organic strategy, but not an ad strategy. So we know that we have to drill down into modified keywords. We have to get into this mid-tail, which would include the word ground or include the word whole bean. So once we see that our product has distinct, unique keyword sets, then we have to set up a separate campaign for each product because it is identified differently based on the features and benefits. Second way that we've covered is that you have a single product, right? You have a product that there's not any variations of it, or the variations of it are going to be different variations of the same product. Now, and it all goes back to the keywords that are searched as we start to select our products. Both, we're going to look at how what the market's already responding to and what Amazon is responding to, looking at our best sellers, and then we'll look at keyword demand. So looking at this one again, this is a second example of how a campaign would be structured. This would be a product, beard oil. There's no unique keywords. Like no one's going to go out at search volume and type things in like growth or argan or jojoba oil. Those are not going to be the things that drive sales for this product. What's going to drive sales for this product is the word beard oil. So everything related to this product is going to be segmented into one single campaign, and the campaign initiative is to sell more of this product. And then our last type of campaign is when you have a parent-child ASIN relationship. So again, both of the campaign structures we just looked at are when we're advertising parent ASINs only, right? We're putting in a single parent ASIN without variations, and we're going to go ahead and run traffic to it. Now, the next kind of campaign is a little more complex. You have sizes, you have styles, you have colors. That's when you have a parent-child relationship, and that's where you need to separate it to where you take your best selling variation of this product. In this example, it'd be black opal. You take your best selling variation and you drive all your keyword traffic to that single ASIN. Then you let the prospect or the shopper self-select the other styles that they are going to purchase by coming to the page. Now, the only time that you would do anything different than that, it all goes in one campaign, is you could set up some separate ad groups within that campaign to make sure that you're hitting unique keywords. Again, it's all about unique keywords. If it's the same keywords that define the product, then it should just be a best-selling product, one product. If you have different unique keywords that define the product within an exact style, you might go and segment your black and your blue, right? So let's go ahead and look at what is the data that we use to make these decisions. Well, first and foremost, you need to use the data from your business center, right? This is a business center report, 30-day report, and this is based on sales, right? And what you want to pay attention to with this business report is in your own business reports is if you have a child-parent relationship, which one of those child ASINs has the best sales velocity, which is your best seller? And then by looking at that data, you can see that that's the one you're going to want to advertise for all good reason. One, it's showing the shopper has a preference for that variety because it's your best seller organically. You're not pushing sales at it, so you've let the system kind of organically show you what it's going to prefer, both the shopper and the algorithm, and it's showing you that this one here is your best seller. You will kind of also see within here on unit session percentages, sometimes when you drive targeted keywords, say a size specific keyword or, a variety specific keyword, then you'll notice that maybe the session percentage is a little higher on another variation, but that's not really what you want to look at. You want to look at total units ordered, total sales ordered, and then within context, you can look at the unit session percentage. But again, your key indicator of likely success with an ad campaign is going to be products that are selling very well and are liked by both the algorithm and the shopper. And again, the next piece of data that you look at, if you don't have significant business report data to pull from, or this is a new product, then you have to look at the way the product is shot for based on the keyword research. So when you go back to your keyword research phase and you're going through the keywords, you want to be looking at, how is this product shopped? Again, if we're looking at coffee, we can see that they look for K-cups, they look for beans, they look for ground coffee. So we want to be looking at how the product is shopped. How much product demand is there for each individual product type? And then which of these products have unique keywords? That's really going to be the big kind of qualifier. And sometimes you're going to have a situation where you have a product that has the exact same keywords on multiple pages. And that's a little bit of a different situation. But most of the time, you're going to have one of the three situations that we just outlined, which is a product that has unique keywords and needs its own campaign because the unique keywords have high volume. Again, if we're trying to capitalize on K-cups, that's 350,000 searches a month. We have to separate it into its own campaign. If we're going to capitalize on coffee beans, it's 177,000 searches. And the reason this is so important is because when you talk about campaigns are designed to accomplish a single objective. It is the definition of campaign. So when you talk about a campaign in that context, you sort of miss your mark if you're not thinking about how those keywords are going to work together. Again, because a coffee bean is different than ground coffee, the way that the buyer is shopping, it's very important that we differentiate that in our campaign structure as well, because we're going to be converting a different shopper with ground than we are with whole bean. So it's important that you really understand how the keywords are searched. And then it's important that you understand how your products are already selling based on organic traffic before you start to make decisions about how to structure your campaigns. So you definitely want to keep your campaigns to a place where you're targeting one product in the campaign and you're very focused on that product and that the keywords are unique to that product in every way possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and kind of review the core concepts on campaign structure. So you want to be sure that you're promoting parent ASINs that have the same keywords in one campaign, right? So that's an interesting thing, right? You have a parent ASIN, and you have the same keywords that just goes into a single campaign. Now, your best-selling child ASIN is what's going to happen to the high volume kind of browse keywords. So your best-selling child ASIN, if you have a lot of variations like the Levi's, you're definitely going to want to be targeting just the bestseller on those general keywords so that you can drive traffic. And then the last thing you'll do is, I think this was a duplicate there, is you're going to go ahead and separate your child ASINs with unique keywords into their own campaigns, right? So when you have child ASINs that have unique keywords, you can separate those into their own campaigns if they have significant traffic, going back to that coffee example. So you want to combine your manual campaigns and your headline search ads for top of search. So now we talk about placement and where you're going to go on the search results page. We've discussed this in several classes. It's important that you understand that you have two placements, and I'm going to show you in a minute some data so we can review that. But you're going to combine your manual campaigns and headline search for top of search results. The one thing I really want to differentiate on that is that you want to be choosing your headline search keywords based on historic sales performance in your sponsored product campaigns. You definitely don't want to invest in headline search as a launch strategy. Headline search is a tremendously effective visibility and brand strategy, but you're going to want to make sure that you have clear data on which keywords are converting for you in sponsored products prior to loading those up into headline search ads, right? So you get the keyword data from your search term report, and not just 2+ sales, but you want 5+ sales, 10+ sales. You want to see conclusive data that these keywords are coming in at a really good ACoS for you before you start to load up headline search ads. So you're going to start with sponsored products, but then you are going to put headline search together on the keywords that are absolutely exceptional in their performance, and that will give you complete top of search coverage. So let's talk about the ways to hit the path of purchase, right? You're going to have sponsored products, you're going to have headline search, and you're going to have placements. And we talked about how auto campaigns are the very best way to target your placements, right? So as we get into the next 2 weeks, we'll spend one whole class just on search tactics and how we do our sponsored product and headline search builds. And then we'll spend a second class on just auto campaigns and placement targeting and how we structure those. But from a high level overview of campaign structure, you're going to be targeting sponsored products and headline search to reach top of search. And you're going to be using auto campaigns to nail your placements and reach product pages, right? That gives you the entire path to purchase. And that's the goal of that, right? Is to use your sponsored products as they get kind of into your kind of like longer tail keywords or your highest converting keywords or your high traffic keywords, and then using your placements to get the product pages where they're shopping and they're making comparisons. And that's going to be mostly through auto. You can do some keyword targeted, like we've discussed, competitor keywords and sponsored products, but the majority of your placements will be won at low cost with auto targeted campaigns and a good negative list. So you're going to be in sponsored products and then you're going to be on these placements. Now, headline search is kind of just the frosting on the cake. It's really something you're going to use for high volume keywords that come in at a good ACoS, a really good ACoS, and for your more targeted keywords that are really getting closer to the buying cycle from your search term reports. Headline search is a great way to close deals. It's a great way to build visibility on the main keywords in your category, but you need to have a really good ACoS to make those main keywords work in headline search, because it's a little more expensive when it comes to converting sales in headline. It's a little bit more pricey than sponsored products. So it's good that you get all the solid data on sponsored products before you make those decisions. Okay, so next we're going to talk about how to structure our campaigns. So the one thing I wanted to talk about that we really covered in detail was how important it is that you use phases to build your campaigns, that you start out with your test groups, right? Your brand is always in there. You start out with shop and browse. Browse are the more general keywords with higher search demand, and shop are the keywords that absolutely define your product that you have to win on. In good campaign structure, you want to start right there in that ad group 1, right? And again, all for a single product at the campaign level. And then in terms of your next round of ad groups, those all come out of the search term reports. And I have great shots in this class regarding search term reports so that you guys can kind of see how you make those decisions. So when you're looking at your next round, you go ahead and you do the data like we talked about. It's an ongoing process. So you pull your search term report, you see what's converted for you in shop and browse, and then you're going to load those up into single group ad groups, right? You're going to load them up into scale, the stuff that's converting to sales, 2+ orders. You're going to take the keywords that are really driving a lot of search volume at a good profitable ACoS, and you're going to move those into singles, broad and phrase, to start to discover new keywords. But again, you really want to phase this out. So your first phase is just a couple of good ad groups to see how people buy and what's converting for you. And then your second phase is to start taking those search term reports and moving things into the categories: buy, which is for keywords that are not profitable, and scale, which is for keywords that are profitable, and then single, broad, and phrase, which are for keywords that are driving the majority of your sales, and you want to discover new variations so you can catch more shoppers at the point of making a buying decision. So that's going to be your second phase of campaign build. And so it is something that's not set and forget. Like, all these wouldn't come out on day one if you've never run a campaign. And if you do have a campaign and some data, you might start with 4 or 5 of these groups. But just know that these groups are constantly refined over time. You're always adding new keywords to scale. You're moving keywords to buy that aren't profitable. So it's important that you kind of, and you'll be editing your bids along the way. So it's important that you keep in mind that it's definitely a process. It's ongoing, and the campaigns are always being kind of refined and edited. It's something you do every 30 days. It's just good. It's the only way to advertise digitally, because there's just all tech platforms, whether you're, especially the big 3, when you're talking like Google, Facebook, Amazon, when you're talking about these massive tech platforms, the changes in the market and the changes in the landscape are so rapid. The changes in the algorithm even are fairly consistent. So it's nearly impossible in digital advertising, especially pay-per-click, to do anything that you're not looking at least every week, several times a week, and then optimizing top to bottom once a month. It's a really important process that there's no way to escape it, because things are just changing too rapidly in tech for you to kind of disregard and just turn on a campaign and let it run over time. It will definitely die a slow death. There's only a few things that can happen with a campaign that you just set and forget. It's either spending money in not very focused. It's spending money and spending your money poorly. It's not investing your money correctly. The 2, it's probably losing ground, and competitors are starting to kind of overtake you in the results. That will happen if you're not on your A game. And then 3, you're not getting a full understanding of how people buy your product online, and you're not, making your campaigns reflect those buying decisions and the data as it comes through. So you really want to be kind of conscious that ad groups number 2, and even the keywords that go in those happen after you get about 30 days worth of data. So your first build is very lean. Don't let it stress you out. You should just get it going. You should have a basic understanding of how it's going to work, and you should have some very targeted keywords. If you're on a tight budget, go ahead and start with your brand and shop keywords that are very targeted. If you feel like you have an open budget, you can start with some of the more general keywords where shoppers are just browsing. Now, the last phase is what we talked about, in the previous slide. We talk about placements. That's when people are shopping product pages on Amazon, reading reviews, kind of browsing content, which is what shopping is. And essentially that's going to be on your competitors or your category pages, right? All of the different products within your category that you compete with, that might be used as either a complementary product or definitely used in a comparison shopping. So we want to be on those pages with sponsored products related to those items. But that is definitely a third phase tactic. You have to have your main keywords, your mid-tail keywords at top of search dominated before you kind of hunker down and start to try to target product pages with your budget. So let's go ahead and look at, first of all, how these campaigns, they work together. So we've talked about this in the past, how you can see this is going to be a main seed keyword that comes in slightly over ACoS. My ACoS target on this whole build is 25%. This one comes in at 32%, but it's a primary category keyword that I need visibility on above the fold. And you can see that my brand searches, which is the second arrow, are coming in, at about 5% ACoS. So what I really want to point out in this screenshot is that everything in your campaign works together to accomplish a single initiative, which is to get more visibility and more sales for a single product. That's what a campaign is. So always be conscious as you're reviewing your numbers that you can improve performance at the ad group level. You can improve performance at the keyword level consistently. But when it comes to just looking at how well that campaign is doing, you want to be taking the collective knowledge of how the ad groups are performing together and how the keywords are performing together to accomplish your goal of making that product a category leader, right? So, and again, you also want to be sure that you're clear on your advertising goals, especially in Amazon. The first goal, of course, is sales. You want to acquire new customers. And then the second goal is product positioning. Right? Positioning is all about the consumer, the shopper. Positioning is the first game in any business, right? Where are you at in the shopper's mind? Are you first in the market? Are you second in the market? when a shopper starts to look for distinct features and benefits of your product, are you showing up to continue that positioning? So for example, if I had a certain kind of product and I had a clear kind of modifier to it, like beard oil, if I'm not showing up on searches around beard oil, I'm not positioning my product very competitively in that space, right? So it's important that you think about shoppers and where you're joining the conversation in their head as they look for stuff, and how you're positioning your product and anything unique to your product, any kind of unique features and benefits, things that make your product distinct. Say it was a growth oil. If I have a beard oil that's a growth oil, I'm going to make sure that I am number one in all searches, top of search for growth, for the simple fact that that is the unique feature and benefit that my product offers. That is my point of differentiation. And I have to purchase those keywords for positioning in the market. It is a game, and I must position myself on the playing field. So positioning is the second thing of advertising that a lot of people overlook. They think about sales acquisition, and the thing you have to know about business, and we all know this, is it's never about one sale to one customer. That is not how businesses grow. Businesses grow by sales, like multiple sales to a single customer. Businesses grow by word of mouth. Businesses grow like an engine, right? It's definitely a snowball effect. It's a flywheel effect. So the worst mistake you can make is only thinking in the short view about that one sale and that one close, because it will not work to grow your company. So that's the real reason with a campaign, that you're thinking about all the elements and how they work together. So now let's talk a little bit about how in your campaign structure, when you start to, this is from the search term report, when you start to kind of define those unique keywords that you need to own first page position on, well, you start to define them based on data, based on the data that comes back from your STR, right? And again, until you have that data, it's all guesswork, and there's no reason to waste more money than necessary on guesses. It's more important that you analyze the data as it comes back in and make those solid decisions and head down a path towards a better sales future. So when we look at this, we have women's jeans skinny. So right now I'm doing significant sales on women's jeans, and I'm doing significant sales on skinny jeans. And that's just like a no-brainer. So now I have 547 orders on women's jeans skinny, and that's a phrase match. And this could be a great example of a keyword that could be put in its own group. This is a great example of a keyword that could be optimized further, right? To continue to kind of take more path to purchase, right? So I'm starting to see here that the way that women are shopping for this product is they're going from women's jeans to skinny jeans, and then they've got a little bit more long tail with women's jeans skinny. But again, it's really important that you're kind of reviewing your reports and you're seeing which keywords are driving those sales. Now, you want to be sure, again, with your auto campaigns, that you're using those to target product pages. Now, you want to design your campaigns to win new customers on their path to purchase. And that's the whole purpose of search term mining. The whole reason that you mine search terms is so that you can kind of continually design your campaigns to get that shopper in more places more consistently. It's an expansion process. You're going to start out really small, and then you're going to kind of get bigger over time. So you definitely want to win all the new, you're not going to win new customers if you're only on a few keywords. And you're not going to win new customers if you're only on, like, say, the long tail exact matches like we've discussed. So the key of search term mining and the key of the campaign structure that I teach is really, it enables you to continually win new customers as they continue to search, and you expand your ability to capture them. You literally, through the data and month after month, day after day, you're always expanding your ability to reach those customers, and over time you start to acquire more sales and more market share. So you want to structure ad groups to improve your campaign performance over time. I think a lot of times people are confused about the purpose of an ad group. And an ad group is simply a way for you to reach shoppers at a certain point on their path to purchase based on what you have in your data, right? So when you look at ad groups, it's just not just a keyword bucket, but your ad groups are designed for performance. So you have an ad group that is designed for your brand, and then you have an ad group that is designed for your competition, and then you have an ad group that is designed with single keywords, your highest converting terms. And then you have ad groups designed for scale, which are the keywords that are doing incredibly well for you, kind of long tail, mid tail, that are driving all the search volume. The reason you want to be thinking about this is because the purpose of an ad group isn't just to bucket keywords, it's to set your bids and set your bids correctly so that you can capitalize on the opportunities those keywords provide. So I think a lot of people get confused with ad groups and they start to thinking of them more as like filing systems, when the reality of an ad group is that it is definitely designed as a bidding strategy, and it's designed as a bucket to target particular shoppers on their path to purchase. And the reason that is because within that ad group, when you put your keywords into an ad group, the idea is to focus them on their relevance. Where are they at in the buying cycle? Those keywords. Are they browse? Are they shop? Right? Where are they at? And then on their conversion potential based on the STR. So, okay, do these keywords really drive a lot of sales at a good ACoS? Do these keywords maybe drive sales, but at a higher ACoS? That's where you start to segment your keywords into ad groups, really just as a management system to manage your investment and manage your budget. Because as you start to kind of go through this, you're going to continue to leverage your match types to expand your visibility and refine your targeting, right? So with match types, we've covered it in the past. You can expand your visibility with broad and phrase match and capture more customers on the path to purchase and learn what exact keywords you're using to find your product. And then you can refine your targeting with negatives and other types of keywords that you find in your campaigns. Overall, if you continually add, good single phrase negatives and you continually kind of switch your match types out to capitalize on opportunity and you kind of move your budget within those ad groups, you start to really over time gain serious momentum. So remember that the campaign, ad groups, and keywords are a single objective game, right? So you're definitely going to be over here thinking about, okay, I have a campaign, and then I have ad groups within that campaign, and then I have keywords within those ad groups, but they work collectively as a whole. So you don't want to isolate them and you don't want to think of them as like, individual files or individual systems. They're actually all part of one system with one clear objective, which is to sell more of the product that you're advertising in that campaign. So it's really, I think a lot of people kind of overlook that key factor, and it causes messy campaign structure, not necessarily messy campaign structure for your own kind of categories, but very messy for an algorithm that's trying to understand exactly what we're telling it. All the algorithm really cares about is how much you're willing to spend and how good your products sell in relation to that. And then it's just trying to kind of stack you up against the competition to see where to place you. So it's one of those things when you're communicating with an algorithm, the goal is to be as clear as you can about that single objective and make sure everything within the campaign is designed to accomplish it. Okay, so our last step is we're going to manage our money, and this is about bids and budgets. And again, this is a step that it's not nearly as complicated as people make it. It's more important that you test bids and budgets. Another thing to really think about with bidding is you really want to keep in mind that, first of all, your budget. So the first thing you keep in mind with bids and budgets is you really want to remember that your bid, first of all, let's go first on budget. Like what you set in your budget, I always say uncapped. Uncapped simply means that you're telling the algorithm you want all the opportunities on that particular campaign, on those particular keywords that you've done such a good job separating and segmenting. So when you come in, you want to be able to say, okay, so my budget, I put a huge budget on this. Usually my budget is multiple times what I'll actually spend in a day. These are the daily spend numbers, right? These are the daily spend numbers on these campaigns. So when you're looking at this, it's not as if these campaigns are crazy in their spend. You know what I mean? They're not like, we're not spending, if you look at the daily spend, what we're budgeting. So when I talk about uncapping your budget, it's similar to uncapping your bid. It's the only way to send the algorithm a clear signal that you have the money that keyword demands. The algorithm, the first thing it's going to do is look for who has the budget to get the scale on page one. They can't put you on page one if you don't have the budget for it. If you don't have the budget for the amount of clicks that keyword is going to drive, they can't put you on page one either because they'd have to micromanage you, right? They can't give you 10 minutes on page one. They look for guys that can be on page one every day, all day, 24/7, every, all the days of the year, right? All the days of the week. That's what the algorithm is looking for, is who is the key player that is in that position day in and day out and has the budget to accommodate that demand. So that's why it's really important that you pick the keywords, that will work with your budget based on demand. That's how you make the budgeting work. So this is why when I say budget and uncapped budget, I get a lot of questions about this. Uncapped budget, I just simply mean set the budget high enough that you'll never run out. Right? Set the budget high enough that you won't run out. If you're running out of budget, then you're bidding on keywords that you can't afford, or you're bidding on keywords that aren't matched to your budget. Your keyword demand and your budget should be matched. High demand means high budget. And when you set those numbers, you're not going to spend what you put the budget at. Most good budgets can start at about $500. If you look at everything in this group, every one of these campaigns, you can see that none of them are spending, only a few. 2 of them are spending over $500 a day. So you can see that you don't have to have, the budgets can look scary. These are very high because, again, we have some major fluctuations and we drive a ton of traffic in these campaigns. So I don't ever let my budget go down because these are these are well optimized campaigns and I optimize them every week and every 30 days, like I'm teaching you guys how to do. So uncapped budget just simply means that you set that budget so you don't exceed it. That's the goal, right? It doesn't mean that you're going to spend what you put. You don't need to be as high as these are, though. We literally hit close to these budgets on certain seasonal highs. So this one needs to have it because there's highs and lows. But on the average day, you can see the spend is not really exceptional, right? It's not killing me. So I think that you want to be conscious. Like I would say the average campaign is going to do fine with a $500 a day budget. You're going to find very few keywords and very few categories unless you're going into something as big as coffee. Unless you're going into something big like that, you're going to find very few keywords and very few categories that require more than $500 a day to start ramping up. So $500 is a good place to start. Now, let's talk a little bit about bids, right? And these, like, I'm pointing to CTRs in this image, but you can see that my bid, based on my performance, you can see the click-through rates here. Based on performance, my bid is not going to be the same as my average CPC. So that's another big differentiator here. So if you're looking at this image, you can see that I've bid, if you're over in the default bid column, you can see that I bid 648, 582, 662, 722. My CPC is $2, on average, it's $223, it's $134, it's $309. So when you compare my default bid, I've got an uncapped bid, just like I have an uncapped budget, right? Same exact strategy. Uncapped budget, uncapped bid. I'm not spending to my maximum bid. I'm not spending to my maximum budget. I do this to send the algorithm a strong signal that I am ready to compete. To please put me on the playing field. I am ready for Super Bowl Sunday. I'm not here to play small. I'm here to compete. So when I do that, I'm essentially telling the algorithm, okay, this is where I'm willing to pay. And essentially, they're just going to look at my max bid against my competitors' max bids and see if I can pay more for them per click. But then as you can see by my performance, like some of these higher CTRs here, my cost per click tends to kind of fluctuate based on performance and based on sales performance, right? You see, I have a lot of orders over here on the far right. I've got 872 orders, 690 orders. Those orders really drive down my overall cost for this campaign. So driving more sales history, more sales velocity is going to lower that. So when I say uncapped bids, I mean set them at the ad group level. Again, you're grouping your keywords based on performance. That's the idea of a scale group. The idea is that you're saying all these keywords are profitable for me. Please keep them at an uncapped bid where I can compete with my competitors. I'm saying I will pay more than my competitors for this traffic. Maybe only a penny more is all you'll end up paying. I'm willing to pay more for my competitors. Please rank me accordingly. Please rank me according to my daily budget. Please rank me according to my bid. So if you're trying to decide, like a lot of people get kind of confused within your search term report, how you would make this decision. So you can see these columns that I've added over here to the right, the OPQ. These are like my columns that I use to make sure that everything is profitable. I have a max CPC set, and that's just calculated based on my conversion rate for that keyword historically, and I have plenty of orders to make that decision. If I'm looking at that, my max CPC that I can pay for that keyword is $4.02 in Q. Column Q, $4.02. You can see that I'm actually paying $2.15. I'm going to keep my bid uncapped, 648, 582. I'm going to uncap my bid on those keywords. I'm using it as a competitive metric to bid more than the competition for those top positions where all my sales are coming from. When I do that, I'm saying to the algorithm, okay, I can compete here. And then I say to myself, now it's not just like I'm competing blindly, right? I'm not, an idiot. So I'm over here looking at my numbers and deciding, okay, where can I really compete? $4.02 is my max CPC. In column I over here, $2.15 is what I'm actually paying. I have $2 before I even max out on this profitability wise, right? I have $2 before I even hit a place that's scary for this particular product. So when you start to see that, that's where you know when you need uncapped in your scale group. That's what the power of uncapped bids does. And how do you measure whether your bid should be uncapped on a keyword is, well, does that keyword come in below your max CPC? If the keyword's actual average CPC is lower than your maximum, then that's an uncapped keyword, right? You don't need to lower the budget on it. You don't need to lower the bid on it. You're not trying to get a few pennies in your piggy bank and head back home. You're in here to rob the train. When you're thinking like that, just make sure that you can see through this whole row. The majority of CPCs are below the max CPC, so these can all continue to scale with high bids designed for competition, not designed for actual spend. So the next example is a high ACoS, right? So now we've got something coming in over here at a high ACoS. It's kind of bounced up here, right? Now this has gotten into an ACoS of 61%. These are all keywords that need to be optimized and are being optimized based on ACoS. So if you're looking at this all of a sudden and it fluctuates, this same keyword most likely drove 130 orders profitably, but it's not doing it right now. So it's important to know that your market will change. Your competitors' bids will change. Your sales performance will change against those competitors. So it's a 30-day process. You have to consistently be optimizing and adding and adjusting and refining to make sure these things stay on track. It doesn't take a ton of time. It just takes focus time and really good focus time and a good understanding of where you're headed. So if I look at this one, my max CPC is pretty low on this one based on conversion rate, right? I'm only converting a sale every 7 clicks if you look in column O. Or if we go back one, I was converting on my best keywords. I was converting sales at every 3 to 4 clicks, right? About 4 clicks on average, I'm converting a sale. So I have a nice max CPC there. I only need to buy 4 clicks to make that happen. Now on these guys, I've got to buy more clicks because I'm not converting as high. So it looks like I'm converting at about 8. You know, if you were to average that, it's taking me about 8 clicks to get a sale. It's double what my good converting keywords are doing. So unfortunately, I only have $1.96 to spend on that keyword. It takes me more clicks to convert it. So when I look at that, my CPC is at $2.68. That's problematic. That's when I talk about your buy group and lowering those bids. My bid's going to have to come down into the $2 range, right? Into very low $2, maybe $2.10. It's got to be a much lower bid to hit that max CPC. It cannot go into an uncapped group anymore because in the uncapped group, based on its conversion and based on its performance, it's actually driving, above CPC. And you'll see the majority of the keywords that are going to need to be tweaked. Some of them can be salvaged here, but you're going to see most of these keywords have kind of crossed the threshold into a place where their CPC is exceeding the maximum I can pay, normally because of a lower conversion rate. So this is where, ad rank and being competitive is very advantageous. But this is also where no matter what you do with the same strategy, the same killer strategy, you can always end up, you're going to always, not can, you will always end up with keywords that tip over into places of not profitable. And you really need to manage those quickly because you want all your money when you uncap budgets, it's funny. When you uncap budgets and you uncap bids, the worst thing that can happen is that you're spending that uncapped budget on this. You see this? Like, this is not where I want my money spent. This is not a good investment. So I don't want my money spent on these keywords. Instead, I want it spent on these. So the reason you want to do that kind of 1-2 pull is because you don't have to cap everything in your account, only the stuff that's not working, right? And then at the same time, if you don't cap the stuff that's not working, then your money in that budget goes to stuff that's not working, right? So to make sure your money is spent on these keywords, you need to make sure you're capping them in this instance every single time so that you can manage your investment wisely and you get your time and your money and your focus all in the same place. So we want to bid aggressively to outrank competitors and capture market share. That is the name of the game, right? Is you do want to bid as aggressively as possible to outrank your competitors and capture market share. And then if things aren't profitable like this, you want to manage it internally within your ad groups, within your keywords, and inside of the campaigns so that the campaign can continue its objective. The campaign objective doesn't change. The campaign objective is always to acquire new customers, to promote your product, and to increase and improve the product positioning, right? It's a long-term game. So your campaign objectives never change, but what does change is how you manage your ad groups and keywords within the campaign to accomplish those objectives. But the campaign is a clear objective, and all you're trying to do is kind of move stuff around within it based on performance and relevance and your goals to make sure that you can hit those targets. So we're going to want to manage our ad spend at the keyword level, and we want to uncap our budget. So you should have fairly good confidence, and you will get some runaway keywords like the ones we just looked at, but you will cap those, you will pause those, you will move those. So you want to manage your ad spend at the keyword level, and you want to uncap your daily budget. So the algorithm gets a good signal that you have the budget for the demand, but then you have a good signal that you're not going to spend money in places that don't produce profits for you. Your actual cost per click will be lower than your maximum bid, as will your actual budget. Your max budget will be lower than your actual spend. So budget and ad spend are not the same. And again, cost per click and bids are not the same. This goes back to that kind of key slide we looked at in the very first step, how this is an iterative process, how it's always every 30 days. The reason is because your CPC is simply a guess, right? Your CPC is not a guess. Your bid is simply a guess so that you can get the CPC and then make a good decision based on that. So it's similar to keywords are a guess until you see the search terms. Bids are, a guess until you see the CPC. So again, this is nothing. You can't get this data in front of yourself. You can't get this data by thinking really hard. You can't get this data in your notepad. You're going to get this data by putting the campaign together in a very good, structured, best guess type way with really due diligence into every bit of the targeting as you go. You want to be sure that when you do that, that you are prepared to kind of set yourself up for success. So again, keep in mind that all these things are just simply small bets, including bids. No way to tell what a bid's going to do until you rank on it. No way to tell what a bid is going to cost you till you see the CPC after 30 days. So that's really the most important factor in campaign builds is it's just a process for you to get more data and do that analysis, make those refinements, and then keep moving forward. So it is an iterative process of testing, analyzing, and revising. That's really what campaign optimization is. That's really what advertising is. It's continually testing, analyzing, and revising. Because I guarantee you guys, even now, Amazon advertising is the biggest opportunity in the ad space. It's a known fact. And if you look at any of the business journals, like I've said, they're all raving about Amazon advertising and projecting its massive, takeover of the world. And Google was the hottest place to be 15 years ago, and Facebook was the hottest place to be in 2010, and then continued to have another big bump in like 2014, 2015. So there's always a hot place to be in advertising, but it really doesn't matter because there's always a place to be in advertising. So without question, every platform is going to change, every opportunity is going to change, but it doesn't matter where you're advertising on the internet, which you're going to have to advertise to sell your product. Amazon specifically, no matter where you're doing this, it's always the same process. You test, you analyze, and you revise. And that is the winning game plan. It is a long view, not a short view. Every time you take a short view and you think of it as a sales tool, you will fall flat with advertising because it is not. If your only goal is to acquire sales without any conscious drive towards market share, without any conscious drive towards business growth, without any conscious drive of your positioning, anytime you just use ads to get some sales or do it because you got to be doing it, you're really missing the mark, and it's probably not going to be very successful by your own standards or by the standards of a professional, because it really is a tool for you to kind of get these big long-term wins. So it has to be done as a consistent process where you're always making improvements and you're always kind of working with the market to capture more of it. You're going to want to launch campaigns in phases to focus your energy and investment. That's like the last thing that we're going to cover here today is that you really want to be sure that you're using that phased approach that I outlined in the campaign structure. You really want to be sure that you're doing this in phases, that you're starting with some keywords, some good seed keywords, some good modified shop keywords, some really targeted keywords that describe your products, features, and benefits. And then you're rolling those into the search term reports, analyzing those reports, and then scaling and expanding from there. So you really want to do this in phases. You don't want to try to do everything at once because you want to give yourself time to kind of understand the flow and to learn how to work within your campaigns. Because again, since this is a process of analyzing and testing, it's important that you get your own workflow straight and you start to understand how that process works with your products, your market, your competitors, because no two products products. No two markets and no competitive landscape is the same. Even product margins, profit margins are completely different from one product to the next, even your own products. Some have better margins for advertising and some don't. Some have higher conversion rates than others. So again, this is really going to be about your products and how they interact with the market and what the cost is in your category to advertise them. And the only way you can start figuring that stuff out is to test it. And then through testing and good optimization practices, you're going to end up with great results. So the bidding strategy, to review it again, because this is really the key to spending your money, to managing your money. Because again, the first rule to making money is to not lose it, right? So to not lose money with advertising, first and foremost, you want to make sure that you're matching your budget to the keyword demand. It's not a big deal if you can't afford a keyword. We all have these limitations to our budget every day. You know, I have a budget, you have a budget. We function within a budget with our household expenses, with our business expenses, with everything. We all have a budget, you know, so you need to be sure that your campaign is set up for your budget, right? So again, if a keyword is too high volume for your current budget, don't worry about that. Don't try to invest in it. It's a bit of a learning curve. So go ahead and find the keywords that work within your budget so you can uncap those keywords. Now, the next thing is going to be about your bidding strategy. You're going to have uncapped bids the same way you have uncapped budgets. They're designed for competitive strategy with the algorithm. You're letting the algorithm know that you can pay more than your competitors for that same ad placement that drives sales and your positioning, right? Positioning leadership is a positioning game. It's not what you do with the product. It's what you do in the shopper's mind. That's what matters at the end of the day. How the shopper sees you and what you do in their mind with your promotion strategy is the game when it comes to positioning. And it is the number two thing right beside customer acquisition and new customer acquisition. That's another big defining criteria with advertising, is that the one thing it can do for you, it allows you to acquire new customers at scale. So if you've already got a whole bunch of customers, there's a million tactics that you can use to sell them more stuff. Remarketing is one of them, but even without advertising, your email list, different kinds of promotions to your list, you can always sell more to your existing customers. That's just a good strategy. But if your goal is to acquire new customers and increase your market share, advertising is the way to do it. In fact, I would really wager to say it's the only way to do it when you get to a certain place in your business. Second, if you have a product that you want to clearly define its positioning, where it belongs in the category, what types of keywords describe the features and benefits so that people can find you because you're better and you're differentiated, you need to use advertising to win those particular keywords. It's not an all-in game. You don't spread it like peanut butter. We focus on the keywords that really define our product. That's going to be the first step. So when you think about positioning and you think about new customer acquisition, it's really important that you understand the uncapped bidding strategy, because at that point, your goal is to get as much positioning, top of search, within the keywords that really matter for your product sales and for your own brand visibility. And then you want to make sure that you're acquiring new customers faster than your competition so that the market ends up being yours and you're not left at the end of the day splitting the small amount of market that's left for third, fourth, fifth, and sixth. The market leader will get 80% of the sales. It's guaranteed. It's been that way since the beginning of time. So the market leader takes all the sales, takes all the profits, and then everybody else has to kind of scramble around to sell what's left after he's done. You definitely want to be the market leader. That is the primary, huge win with advertising, is category leadership. And every one of the campaigns that I manage, I've accomplished category leadership. It's definitely the goal of your final end game as you're kind of optimizing your campaigns. So the bidding strategy is super important. You want to have uncapped, you want to have capped, and then you want to pause stuff that's not doing your campaigns any sales, right? It's not converting any sales. It's not getting clicks. It's not bringing people to your product pages. Anytime that you have anything in your campaign that's not taking action, if it's not actionable, it just means people aren't interested. It's not relevant. You need to pause that so it doesn't use any of your money. Capping is just a simple way to kind of keep sales history on a keyword, but kind of tamp down that bid so it doesn't exceed your budget requirements. So those are the three ways that you bid successfully when it comes to managing your money with ads. So next week, we're going to go deep into the world of search, and we're going to talk about specific search tactics and specific search structure. This week, we have several new guides. We have 3 guides coming out this week before Friday. Most of them are all related to search term mining based on your questions and your feedback. So we have the first guide shows you how to download the search term report and sort it and organize it to get all of your columns correct. The second report will show you how to analyze your search terms and get into detail with what to do with them as you analyze them. And then the third report is going to show you how to resegment those keywords and put them back up into your campaigns. So you're going to be talking about how to take those keywords from the search term report, how to put them into groups with match types, how to move them around, and how to segment them into your campaign structure, your ad group structure that you've already created, or you might be creating from scratch, depending on where you're at in the campaign cycle. So I'm going to be ready here for questions. I know that Melissa is here on the line. Melissa, you with me?